Welcome back to another edition of our PHP backend. Today we are going to look into some PHP functionalities where we'll be talking about functions, built-in functions, and user-defined functions. Before we go into that, last time we talked about we'll be looking into some things such as how to encode JSON and decode JSON. What is JSON? JSON simply means JavaScript Object Notation. It allows two applications to share data. For instance, your application may want to share data with another application. Then you have to use JSON if they are not using the same database. Alright, so taking for instance, here we have our person object. We also have our name as an array. So in this case, if we say JSON encode, I tabbed this before, JSON underscore encode, then we put our object inside. This will return to us. This is what we have now, but by the time this one is coming from this for each loop as we run it last time. So when we run this, we did not echo the JSON, so I will comment this out and then echo the JSON. Echo JSON encode. This will give us our JSON, you can see, and it is seen as a JavaScript object. Look at the separator, this semicolon. While when we were doing it, we used this to associate it with each other. So it has been converted to a JSON. Another application can pick it up like that and use. If we do the same thing for our name, we get it as well. Do it for our name, it will be a JSON object too, you can see. Okay, so that is how we use JSON. And if you are getting JSON objects from an external application, such as if for instance when it is person like this, if I should run this, copy this, and then if I say echo JSON decode, what are we decoding? We're decoding this as we get it from the browser. Let's see what we have. Okay, unexpected. Yes, I think we may not be able to use this bracket in PHP because PHP will not allow us to use something similar to this bracket. I'm going to be the reason why we're getting that. Okay, but if we get it as a from outside like that, it will definitely work because this is not one of the ways to declare an object in PHP. You know, we use an associative array like this, so we may not allow that. Or if we, let me see if I remove that bracket and get it directly like that to see what happens. Okay, yeah, we still get another error, so it won't work like that. But if you are getting it, you store it into a variable as you get it, and then you can run that and it will work. Alright, so that's for this JSON encode and JSON decode. Now we want to move on into functions. functions in PHP. First of all, we have different functions in PHP, but they can be categorized into two. We have built-in functions, some functions that have been created already by jQuery, by PHP, and then we have user-defined functions, a function that you create yourself. So let's first of all look at the built-in functions. What are built-in functions? Built-in functions are functions that already exist in PHP. Taking for instance, this echo is a function, array here is a function, and so on and so forth. JSON encode, JSON decode, they are functions. We didn't declare them, we didn't do what they are doing, we didn't declare them anywhere. We just call them and pass our object into it, and it performs an operation. It means some code are already inside. So what is a function? A function is grouping a block of codes together in a single name. Taking for instance, the whole of an operation, rather than we commenting one part to make another part run here, and then we put them inside functions, we just be calling the function of the block of code that we want to run. If I want to run this part now, I can just put that part inside a function, and then when I have done that, say I call it function. That's how to create a function. You proceed it with function, and then I will say get person, get persons, put parentheses, and then the curly braces. You run it around that block of code. That means I don't need to comment this again. If I run my application now, it won't do anything. See, because this is not inside the function. If I now call the function outside this way, see, get persons, terminate, then we get what is inside the function. I guess there's a problem there. Let me see, undefined variable person. Okay, yes, in this case, when you create a function like that, whatever will be, will have to be inside the function, except if you are creating it as a global variable. That's the only time you may have to make it work. Alright, let me copy that and put it inside the function, say that it will work. Let me run it now, and that is it. Okay, so that's a function. Now, what are the built-in functions that we are talking about that we want to look into? Built-in functions are functions that are already exist in PHP. What you just need to do is to call them and use. You initialize with whatever parameter it takes, and then it runs the function. So now, how do we go about this? How do we go about it? We can look at some of these functions inside PHP. If you go to your browser, Google, you can just type into Google php.net functions. What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to tell Google that, okay, I want to search for something under php.net. That is the website of PHP, and they have their documentation for everything you may need to know about PHP. So, but I only want to see functions, because there are a lot of things, it's a document, it's well documented. It's a documentation that comprises of a lot of things. But in this case, we only want to look at functions, variables, conditional statement, all this we have been doing all this while. It's on their documentation. But we want to see functions only. So I will just press enter. Google will look for the PHP site and bring out functions under PHP. site to bring out functions under PHP site. Okay, so that is how we search for functions. So if we now, let me try it now, it should go by now. Okay, that's it. So it shows function reference. This is like another bulk of documentation on functions. If you click on this, it will take you to PHP, where you see a lot of functions that are grouped into different groups. You have function that has to do with error handling and all that. You have authentication. We have compression and archiving. We have a lot of things under the function reference. But let's say, for instance, we are looking for function that has to do with, let me say, arrays. You can see under here we have arrays. You can see under variable and type related extension we have an array, we have class objects and all that. If you are looking for strings, you can see text processing, you see string functions. Here, if we come here now and click on this, you will see a lot of functions that you can use to manipulate your strings, like converting string to lower, string to upper, like number formats and all that. You see it under string, HTML, special characters, and you see what each function does. You can see you join and do a whole lot of things. So let's say, for instance, I want to here, let me get there first for you. I'm going to show it to you. Let's say, for instance, okay, look at this, string to lower, string to upper. It make a string to be lowercase, make a string to be uppercase. Taken for instance, if you click on it, let me open it on another tab. For instance, if I come here, I will see example of how to use it. If you scroll down very well, you will see that is it. You can see string. Let's say you have a string of like this, of a whole sentence that says Mary had a little lamb and she loves his soul. Now, if you now say, okay, this string is equal to function string to lower string, convert this string to lowercase, that's what it means. If you now echo the string, you get what? It's going to print Mary had a little lamb and she loves it. Everything in lowercase. So they also give you suggestions down there that you can as well use string to upper and all of that. So if you click on any of them, you see what they do and how to use them. So that is how we do this. If you need any function, just think of whatever you want to do. It is whatever you want to do that will determine the function to use. You can say you want to learn all the functions in PHP. Look at it, under string only we have a whole lot. See right here, a whole lot of functions under string only, string functions. See, so even if we want to learn this only, we may not be able to finish this course. So just take a look at whatever you want to do and look for the function that can perform that for you right here. Alright, so moving on, well, we are going to talk about some functions that we may have to come across on our daily activities. That's such as that string to lower, string to upper. We have some other ones that we can talk about here, such as we look for number formats. This number format Format a number with grouped what? Thousands. With grouped thousands. If I come here for instance, taking for instance, this is how it is declared. So but let's just look at how to use it. This is it. If you type a number of this type 123.56 or just 123, pass it to a variable, then you now call number format that number. It's going to return it in thousands separator like this, and then you can now specify, if you like, you can specify number of decimal places. That's it. Number format, all these ones they are optional. You can stop at these two. These ones they are not compulsory. So you just stop at number format, the number you want to format, and then number of decimal places. That's all. It will give you your value back in the number of decimal spaces you have specified. That is that or number format. We have other options. We'll still talk about all this MD5, Chai1, Bcrete, and all that. Now we have implode and explode. Implode is to join array elements with a string. Let's look at that. Let's say for instance you have strings of an array. You now want to join them together. You use what? Implode. Look at it. Let's say I have array last name, email, phone, and I want to join it together. Then I will use what? Implode with comma, because that is what they use to separate them. What? Our array. With this, it's going to give us what? All together as this, like a single string. That is for implode. If you can now use variable dump, var dump to check the structure of that data when you after you do that. For instance, if you look at this place now, I use the var dump to get how the, so if I don't want to run this function now, I just comment it. So if I say var dump name, our name that we have as an array, it will show it to us that it is an array. That's it. That's what var dump does. It will tell us the information about that object. Okay, so that is that on built-in functions from PHP. As we are moving on in this course, we'll be using some of those functions and you get to know and learn more about them. Alright, so now let us move on into user-defined functions. User-defined functions. User-defined functions are functions that you create yourself, you put in your implementation and you use it. So therefore, we're going to create another file for that and call it function.php. Press enter. It creates that, and then we are there. So I'm going to open PHP, close my PHP. Now right here, let's say for instance I can create a function greeting. What will the function do? The function will just do what? Echo welcome, and that's it. So if I should go to my browser, and you know this is another file, it's not index again, we put the page slash the page. If you like, put .php. If you like, don't put .php. From PHP 7 we allow you to do that. So here our page is showing nothing because we have not actually done anything. That function is dormant, it's not going to do anything until you do what you initialize it. So therefore, if I now say greeting as a function and terminate, if I go to my browser now and reload, then I get welcome. That is when I initialize my class. Now, that is that for function, the first one, first part. Now let us look at another type of function that returns. If you type function things, for instance, and what will this do? It returns thank you in it. So if we call the function here, I've connected that other one, call it thanks function. Let's see what happens. If you run here, we get nothing. Why? Whenever a function returns, you have to echo. Is that you echo the function directly like this, or let's see, we get the thank you, or we pass it into a variable by saying variable chk is equal to thanks, and then we now echo variable thk, then we get the thanks. Okay, now what's the difference between function that echo directly and function that return? Function that return, you have to echo it back again, and the purpose of having a function that return is that whatever it returns can be passed into another function for manipulation. You know, a function might stop somewhere, that where that one stopped, another function will pick up the parameter and work on it further. So that is why you may have to return something from such a function. Now, the next thing you want to look at is function that takes parameter. Function that takes parameter. So let's say, for instance, we have a function called some value. The function will do what? It will take two parameters and add them up together, a comma b. You can take one. It's not as if you cannot take one. It depends on how you want to do it. Then let us just echo, don't let us return. So that's echo variable a plus variable b, and that's all. In that case, if you are calling such a function, taking for instance, if I come here, want to initialize such a function, you must initialize it with arguments, say 5, 2. If you did not do this, it's going to give you an error that it requires so argument and only a particular one that is given to it. So if we run this, then this function returns 7 because we add up two things. So whether you return or you echo, this kind of a function will do anything you want to do. So it depends on whether you want it to now be a return function or function that echoes value. Then the next one we're now going to look at is function with default value. Function with default value. So we're going to call that some default. That is, it has default value. Say for instance, variable a is equal to 1, comma, variable b is equal to 3, and the function will do what? The function will echo we can say it returns whichever one, a plus b. Now, this type of function can be initialized in 3 different ways. Number 1 is without any value. It will work. Without any value, it will work because it has default values. You can pass one value into it. I can say only 5. It will take the first one and it will use default value of the second one. Or I can say I want to pass the 2 values, 5, 2. So now let's see the results. Okay, syntax error, unexecuted function, line 21, something must be happening. Line 21, line 21. What happens to line 21? Or, oh, we did not terminate this one, so that is why it's showing at that point. Okay, so if we come here, then we get it, it is joined together. We may have to do something. We may have to I'm going to make these ones to be in brackets so that it will run at once and then concatenate it. Dot is to concatenate. I'll concatenate it with break line tag. Okay, so this should take each individual into its own line. Alright, we have one that is being displayed up there. We need to comment this out. Okay, so that one is for the other function. Then we get it 4. So how did it do the calculation? Let us look at it. The first sum default, we did not pass anything into it, so it picks the default values 1 and 3 and add them up together. We get 4. The second one we pass 5, so it has changed the first parameter, which is a, to 5 and add it to 3. That gives us what? 8. While the last one we pass the 2 parameter 5 and 2 and add 5 and 2 together to give us 7. So here is where we are going to stop for this lesson. In our next class we shall continue. Thank you.